Hello, Salemites. Welcome to your weekly update on Days of Our Lives. Days Daily Dose. TV, actually, TV's on the end of that. Welcome, everybody. What is popping in Salem? This is for the week of Monday the 24th to Friday, which is today, the 28th. So let's get into it and get her done quickly if we can. Got you some notes here. If you haven't subscribed, please do. Yeah. Alright, so Andrew tells Marlena, John, and Roman that Bo has Kayla. You know, he's in Salem on Monday. And that he is the one that killed Kate. Kayla tells Stephanie and Chad find Kayla in the laboratory I think it was Friday. So Kayla tells Stephanie that Bo has Patch. They are a little concerned, but Kayla's convinced she won't hurt him. Steve is still locked up in the cellar of Victor Kiriakis' childhood home, that is. Kiriakis. May he rest in peace. So, Steve is locked in the basement and he is struggling to get free. Okay, so Harris goes on and tells Hope he did find something at the Kiriakis house, and he didn't tell her what it was, but as we know, he told her, "Go on now, girl. Go see it. Go see for yourself." So, there she is with her gun, looking around, getting ready to sneeze. I feel it coming. Go away. So, there she is with her gun. She's looking around. Bo, of course, isn't there because he went to take Kayla to the laboratory. But he does come in, and there they are. Face to face. Face to fancy face. So, it was emotional. I won't lie. I think I cried. A couple of things with Bo and just made me cry. When they show all them scenes, and they've shown them a lot of their whole history together, from the time they were kids until now. Hope on the back of that motorcycle in her wedding dress, and it's just reminding us really how we've all aged. Thanks. Anyway, they're face to face. Bo takes his gun because Hope is hugging him and stuff, and he's standing there like a stiff man because this is not the Bo we know and love. So he takes his gun and he takes her to the cliff, and he tells her he can't go on with his new life as long as she is around. And she's begging him, Bo. I mean, it's so emotional. The acting was just fantastic because I was right there with him. No, Bo, no. And she was crying, and as she was saying things to him, it was all flashing through his mind. Now, this was doing this Friday when they left us. So Monday when they came back, it flashed through the same scenes again. So we got, and then I believe it does it a couple of more times. It's still doing it because, some other things that happened that I'm going to tell you that you should already know if you've been watching the show, but if you haven't, I'm going to be updating you. Just right, finally, he's holding that gun and tears coming down his face, and then he looked at her and he said, "Fancy face," and then, pow, boom, Bo is shot and falls to the ground, and Hope is just screaming, and oh my God, I was screaming with her. We were all crying, and because we go way back. So it was just awful, and you're sitting there, and she's talking to him, trying to get him to hang on. And who shot him? Sean. Well, Sean heard he had killed Kate. He was under the impression he was under Megan's control. He'd had a gun pointed at his mother, so, oh man, he feels bad too, and that carries on the whole week. His guilt. Oh, I had wrote down in my notes, Sean arrives in Greece. We already figured that out by now. That's what happens when, they jump around in the show, so... Thomas Banks ends up busting in the homecoming at the lab, and he's got the gun. He is just such a... What's the word for him? Just a slimy little skin crawler, isn't he? He's just hilarious. But anyway, he breaks into the lab. He has a gun. He has a gun on Chad, and he's getting ready to blow Chad's head off because Chad had previously shot him and blew half of his ear off. And that's what Thomas was saying. Yeah, when you blew my ear off, and Chad's like, it's just a little piece of it. But still, he was getting ready to, blow Chad away. He grabbed the prisms. He said that's what he came for. I don't know if he was going to shoot all of them. He was definitely going to take Chad out. And boom, he gets knocked in the head because Harris busts in and saves them. He busts in and saves them and takes... What's his name? Oh, the little slime ball. Thomas Banks. Takes little Thomas Banks to the ISA to be locked up and stuff. So, that was pretty funny. Now we move on to Tuesday, the 25th. And it gives you the flashbacks of Bo with the gun on her. Oh, okay, it was Monday and Tuesday, not Friday and Monday. You go through the memories again, and shows you how, Sean shot him. We done had to live through this again. So now Bo's in the hospital. He is fighting for his life. They think he's doing all right, and then they don't really know. And he doesn't. He dies. He flatlines. He dies. And it was heart-wrenching to watch. I was crying. I was carrying on. Hope was crying. She was carrying on. We were all just a mess. So, she ended up... Oh, my God. She ended up fainting right there on the floor. And when she woke up, this nurse dressed in white was telling her, wake up, wake up. Well, the nurse was... What's her name? Angela. And it was actually the angel from heaven. If you saw any of Beyond Salem, Bo and Hope reunited in heaven briefly, although neither of them remember. So it's Angela, and she's like, Miss Brady, wake up. And Hope wakes up, and she's like, do I know you? You look familiar. And she's like, no, and she's like telling her all kinds of supportive stuff, and Hope notices that Bo is not in his bed, and she's like, oh no, did they already take him, to the morgue? She didn't say the morgue. And Angela says, no, he's in surgery. And she's like, what? And she's like, as soon as you passed out on the floor, his heart started beating again like crazy, so they took him to surgery. Well, he comes back from surgery, and he lived through surgery, but they're telling them that now he's in a coma. So here Bo is in a coma. Everybody's sad. Let's see. Yeah, okay. Wendy, back at the ranch, is still with Tripp. Won't talk to Johnny, but Chanel calls Tripp and explains, and then Wendy talks to Johnny, but it might already be too late since she's practically, thrown herself on Tripp. I'm not a big fan of Wendy as I call her. I'm not a fan of hers. Never really liked her. I am glad that they took her out of the looking like a slob and finally dressed her like a girl. She looks a lot better in dresses and, dressing like people her age dress. God, when she came on the scene, she had on them oversized clothes, and she just looked like, I don't know, definitely a slob for sure. She doesn't interest me too much. I'm hoping that Johnny and Chanel will get back together. But, who knows? Wendy can go on with Tripp, and they can stay in Seattle. Until the next time Beyond Salem films. Never! And, I don't like Tripp or Wendy much. I don't like their characters. They're just bleh. Okay, so, where are we at? Okay, some interesting things happen on Wednesday. Is that all Tuesday? I took a few notes. Okay. Yeah, Tuesday had a lot of boring stuff with Tripp and Wendy in it. Okay, so on Wednesday, I hate these glasses. These are my can't see small print, so I can see all my buttons here. Okay, so on Wednesday, Gabby and Stefan wake up and they are a new couple in their new house because, Gabby moved into the mansion. So Stefan decided to hire Gabby as a consultant. This ticked EJ off, so he hired Nicole as his consultant, even though she has a job at Basic Life. He said, you can do that from the computer, from home, or something, this or that. And she does do a lot of work from home. I don't ever see her work. I know she gets jiggy on that table in the conference room. Okay, Trask goes into the Brady pub, and she's threatening Sloan. Your poison biscuits, I was one of the victims. And she's like, well, I didn't have anything to do with the poison biscuits. And Eric stood up and said, she didn't have anything to do with it. I'm her alibi. She was with me all night. So, no one is really buying Chanel and Talia's story. Not their story. No one's really buying Chanel and Talia's stuff, their bakery goods, since, they put out the poisoned biscuits and poisoned half of Salem. So, it's happening. Anyway, it keeps flashing back in EJ's mind about how he overheard Nicole saying that, she wasn't going to tell EJ. She was going to keep this secret from him. Okay, so now I'm starting to figure stuff out about... Chanel is a nervous wreck over all of this. And, I started to figure out, because you're really limited to your choices of who, and this was earlier in the week, everybody knows now, but you're limited of your choices, really, of who hates Chanel and Paulina enough to trash her office, threaten her, and then poison Chanel's bakery goods. Well, we already found out that Talia was the one to poison the bakery goods, which makes sense because she's actually a doctor and would have access to that drug. So that makes sense. Talia also was the one that forgot to turn on the security camera in the bakery that night. But everybody's kind of blowing that off for now. So it starts to occur to me, what if Sloane's mother is really still alive, and since Talia was a doctor, maybe she had something to do with her recovery, and maybe her mother was paying her or something. But then it shows at the end of, I think it was Wednesday. Then it shows at the end of Wednesday, you see Talia go to the hotel room and opens the door, and she says hello, and it shows a guy there, a young man that nobody recognizes. And I put out a video early in the week about it, and I said, this is it. That's Sloane's brother, I guarantee you. Found out the next day, I was right. So now I don't know if it's just Sloane's brother and Talia. Well, I know they're doing all this stuff. There is no mention of the mother being alive. The only reason that popped in my head about the mother being alive was that when I was posting my videos on YouTube, I seen it run across somebody's video that Sloane's mother is alive. You know, and half of those spoilers are half the time wrong. So that just popped in my head, and I thought, well, maybe that's true. But then when I seen the guy, I thought, oh, it's her brother. It's her brother that she rarely speaks of, but she does. And it is. And apparently Talia put her medical career on hold so she could come to Salem, get a job baking biscuits, get friendly with them, and then ruin them. She had the opportunity to grab some keys and make copies of them. I think she made copies of them. We just seen her grabbing the keys out of Paulina's purse, or maybe it was Chanel's purse. And she had to have made copies and put them back, or they would have noticed them missing. So there was no broken anything in Paulina's office or the bakery. So somebody had access to both places. And that would have been Talia and Sloane's little brother, which I think his name's Colin or something like that. So that's how that ended Wednesday. Now, moving on Thursday, the 27th, Jada told Rafe that Talia lied. When they had them come back in, and they went over their stories. And she told him that Talia had lied to him because she remembered that night, and she came in much, much later. And Rafe said, well, are you sure it was that night? And she said she remembered it specifically because it was the night of the day that her and Rafe had confessed their feelings for each other. So that's how she said she was so sure that she remembered it. So now she's freaking out. And then she's telling Rafe she's also the one that didn't turn the security camera on. And being a doctor, she has access to drugs that she could have put in the dough. And Rafe's like, calm down, calm down. What would be her motive? Her and Chanel love each other. She said, you're right. Oh, it's probably somebody else. But she calls Talia to clear it up. Yeah. Talia told her that, yeah, she forgot. She had a headache, so she went to the store to get some aspirin and then came home. And Jada said, well, that wouldn't have taken very long. And she said, oh, well, I took a walk by the lake, too, to help my headache. And Jada said, well, it must have helped your headache because I came back. Because when you came back, you didn't even mention it. So, she doesn't believe her. And Talia knows that her sister doesn't believe her. And I do not like Sloane's brother. He seems very controlling over Talia. I don't like that crap, man. So anyway, Xander and Chloe, they've become friends. And they are both... Chloe doesn't have a job. She's using up all of her savings. She said she's got to find some cheap place to stay. And Xander said, he's making money at the paper, and he's looking for an upgrade, and Chloe's looking for a downgrade. So they decide to get a place together and be roommates. Have their own rooms and stuff and split the rent. But Chloe's like, I don't even know if I can afford that. And, I guess Chloe's looking into moving in with somebody else or something. I don't know what she's planning on doing. But he told her, well, you can keep the place clean, and we'll call that your share of the rent for just temporarily. And she's like, oh, so you want a housekeeper, not a roommate. And he said, okay, fine. But, so they're looking at apartments. That should be interesting. I mean, why shouldn't they? They both need a place to stay. They're both unattached at the moment, so, they really shouldn't have to deal with any backlash from anything. Brady has a talk with Eric at the pub, and, he's worried that Xander and Chloe are going to get together. And Eric's like, well, she said they were friends. They're just friends, hanging out. And he's like, I need to get him away from her, so whatever. Good luck, Brady. Your daughter hates her, and she's not going to put your daughter through that or put herself through it. So, see ya. You might as well go back and be with baby mama now. Silly Kristen. So anyway, after Jada gets off the phone with Kaye, you can tell. She tells Rafe she don't believe it. She don't believe none of what she just told her. Rafe tells her he can take her off the case, and she said, no, I'm too far in now. It would seem to me like you would just automatically be off that case if it was a family member. Okay, Chanel was talking to Alex, who is currently undergoing therapy from Marlena, and she's trying to straighten him out of being a man whore, from what I understand. So Chanel is talking to Alex, and she tells him she'll forgive him for, screwing up a relationship with, what's that girl's name? Allie, if he would go use sex again to get Sloan to admit to drugging everybody. He told her he'd like to help her, but he just ain't gonna do that. So that was a stupid idea. I mean, I understand that they think Sloan's the only one, but she's not. Okay, so we move on to today, which is Friday. Today we just have a lot. We're back to Bo and Hope. He's at the hospital in a coma, and up pops Angela again, just telling her to hang in there. And she loves Bo, and everything's going to be okay. And just like that, she disappears. She's all dressed in white. Says she works there. Yeah, she works everywhere. She's one of God's angels. Roman shows up in Greece. So everybody that's in Greece now is Stephanie and Chad, Roman, Kayla and Patch, of course, Harris. Now Andrew's back there, and Roman goes. So Roman gets there, and he's got mixed feelings. He wouldn't go in to see Bo because, he's having a problem with Bo shot Kate. Stephanie and Chad use this time for a little wine and dine and a little romance. So they had a good time today, just enjoying each other, trying to de-stress because, they can't hang around to the hospital. Sierra and Sean are both at the hospital. Sierra showed up, and of course Ben wasn't with her. She left Ben at home to watch after baby Bo. So I'm glad she did, because just yesterday we seen Alex, and when they air them that close together, I cannot get into any storyline either one of them's in. Anyway, they make Hope go home to shower and all that. Take a nap. And they said they'll stay with Bo. Hope goes back to the hotel, walks in, and he just run into Harris. She talks to him for a minute. He explains why he did it. He didn't want to lose her, and Bo told him to do it. And he'd never had that kind of love before. And they say their goodbyes. Stephanie and Chad also say their goodbyes to Harris. And they thank him for saving them from, what's his name? Thomas. So Harris leaves. He does talk to Andrew for a few minutes and explains things before he goes. But, you know, he leaves. So I don't know if we're going to see him anymore or not. Okay, so Roman finally gets up the nerve to go in and see Bo. Temporarily. Stephanie and Sean are in there with him. Anyway, Andrew tells Patch and Kayla he comes in with this little disc or this little some kind of, you know, plug-in something. What are they called? I don't know. Anyway, he said the doctors found that in Bo's brain. Some kind of transmitter or whatever. So Steve said, can we translate that into what was Bo's memories and what he's been doing? He said, well, try it. So they did. And it was in video, like the transmitter, his eyes and stuff had been recorded video. And Roman comes in and says, what are you doing? And they didn't want to tell him because they knew that he would want to see when he shot Kate. So Roman's like, I can take it. I can handle it. I want to see it. Let's go. So they played it, and he said, go on, get to Kate. I want to see what happened to Kate. So he does. He speeds up to the part where there's Kate. And when Bo goes to shoot Kate, guess what? He does not shoot her. He shoots a gun up in the air, and when it went off today, it shows Kate working at some kind of fish market or something, chopping up fish. So I had thought that she had been hurt and that Rolf took her, but then I heard Rolf was in jail, so I thought, well, that can't be right. Maybe Rolf's not in jail. But we see her today, so I think what might have happened is she just had to get the hell out of there, so she's working somewhere to earn the money to be able to get her butt back home. You would think, why doesn't she call her family or anything? But makes me think she's maybe being held hostage or something. I'm not sure, but that's how it went off today, Friday. So that's a wrap for the week of the 24th through the 28th. You all have a great weekend. Subscribe if you haven't. If you like the video, you know, of course, like it. And I will see you guys in Salem. Have a great weekend.